Adrien Brody just won his second Oscar, a feat so difficult that most people don't even have one. Yes, I am looking at you, Ralph Fiennes. Also looking at you, the mirror in my own bathroom. Unfortunately, yapping on YouTube has yet to be a role honored by the Academy. Nor has the film that we're going to talk about today, Inappropriate Comedy, starring Adrien Brody as Flirty Harry.
Go ahead. Make me gay.
No, this isn't a joke. That's two-time Academy Award winner Adrien Brody starring in a Rob Schneider sketch comedy movie where he portrays a gay version of Dirty Harry. And famous podcaster Theo Von is also in this movie for some reason. Inappropriate Comedy is, without exaggeration, one of the worst films I've ever watched for this channel. I'm not saying that to exaggerate, I am saying it because it is a statement of fact. This was agonizing to get through. 90 minutes of both racism and sexism, often combined, without any attempts to introduce a third element, laughter. Everyone who is in the movie, including Ari Shaffir, who stars as the amazing racist, have taken steps to distance themselves from the toxic cesspit that is Inappropriate Comedy. For a time, it was literally the lowest rated movie on Metacritic, and it was directed by someone who's more famous for having been in the Shamwow and Slapchop infomercials, Vince Offer. But I mean, how bad could this really be? I mean, making a film has gotta be as easy as using a slap chop with just one finger.
So easy, one finger. If I can do it with one finger, you guys can do it with your whole hand.
So to honor Adrien Brody's win for Best Actor, a genuinely impressive feat, and for me to suffer a little bit for your amusement, today we are going to take a look at Inappropriate Comedy. And no matter how bad I feel when I'm watching this, I know deep down, however terrible I am feeling, it cannot possibly have been worse than what Adrien Brody was feeling when he was starring in scenes like whatever the f this is.
Go ahead. Huh? Bust my ass.
If there was a delay in me uploading this video, well, it's because I thought Timothée Chalamet was going to win instead of Adrien Brody. I'm sorry, I'll say it. If I were to watch his worst movie, it would probably be either the cannibal one or the one where he tries to sleep with his high school teacher. Not a joke, by the way, it's called Miss Stevens and it grossed $4,611. You have to go back pretty far to find that one though. I mean, look at Timothée Chalamet's list of works. It's incredible. To my knowledge, the most embarrassing thing he's ever done is the Statistics rap, which he was like 15, and yes, we are referencing it 2 videos in a row. We are running it back.
Statistic, yep.
And as bad as that was, it is a lot better than being on the poster of Inappropriate Comedy, as we'll soon see. Oh, Adrien. My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and if you like my stuff, please like and comment this video. It will get it out to more people, and I super duper appreciate it. I am also on social media. The username's there, links down below in the description if that's your thing. Heart back by popular demand. Inappropriate Comedy was released in 2013, but it feels so dated you have to imagine that it must have been sitting on a shelf somewhere gathering dust after having been originally made in like 2003. Coincidentally, that's the year that Adrien Brody won his first Oscar. If only we could tell that exuberant face that in just 10 short years, he would be starring in a movie directed by the Shamwow guy. I love movies. And speaking of the aforementioned Shamwow celebrity, apparently in recent years he's made a pretty stark, hard right turn.
In the 50s, the KKK, the white supremacists attacked you because you're different because of the color of your skin. The color of your skin, they had to cancel you. Right now, it's the color of your thought that they want to cancel you. Same thing, same hatred.
What is the audience for this podcast? Who's sitting here and listening to this and thinking, you know, the Shamwow guy actually made a really good point when he compared cancel culture to the KKK. Like, who thinks that? You need to have thrown your brain through a damn meat grinder if you think that comparison has an ounce of truth to it. Someone writing you a mean tweet because you were racist is not nearly the same thing as a hate crime.
Well, I hated it.
All of this is coming from the same great mind that brought us The Amazing Racist, so I guess we can't really be too surprised. It was originally slated to be released in 2010, and the film also blatantly reuses a couple sketches from Vince Offer's other earlier movie. The sketch Flirty Harry, starring Adrien Brody, was lifted directly from 1999's underground comedy movie, and the original sketch starred Offer himself. It's very presumptuous to recast one of your comedy sketches with an Academy Award-winning actor, so don't be surprised if in the next video I've been replaced by Matthew McConaughey. Thing I like about bad conservative comedy. I get older, but it stays the same age. Alright, alright, alright. And this film is, in a sense, an example of conservative comedy, given that the butt of nearly every joke is a character on screen being vehemently racist. We'll see a lot of these examples as I discuss the film, you know, keeping in mind I do not want to get demonetized, but I cannot overstate just the amount of racism that's there and how retro it all feels. Like modern day comedians who are doing material where they're shitting on entire ethnic groups usually put in at least like 5% effort, like when Tony Hinchcliffe said at a Trump rally that Puerto Rico was an island of floating garbage. Is that lazy and racist? Sure, but it at least displays the underlying knowledge that Tony knows that Puerto Rico is in fact an island. And by contrast, Inappropriate Comedy is hitting us with some vintage racism and racial stereotypes, including, but not limited to, Asian people being bad at driving, black people loving watermelon, and at one point they just put a Mexican dude straight up in a cage and drive him to the border, so at least Adrien Brody's parts aren't really racist, they're just pretty homophobic, so Adrien Brody as an actor and a performer, you're clear, no racism at all. Good job, Adrien.
Yeah, man, Jamaica, man, you know, Rastafari, you know.
I take it back. Inappropriate Comedy begins with Theo Von, the famous podcaster and comedian, doing a parody of 127 Hours, the book turned into a movie about how a guy had to cut off his own arm to free himself from the canyon he was trapped in. His struggle is somewhat undercut, pardon the pun, by director Vince Offer walking right by him without offering, pardon the pun again, any help. This is a luxury that I'm sure the real-life Aaron Ralston would have greatly appreciated. Vince Offer then goes further into his underground cave lair, which is apparently right beneath the streets of New York City, where apparently he can just blow air up Lindsay Lohan's dress, where he then sees a live video feed of her lady parts. So 3 things. Who wrote this? Who thought this was a good idea? And Katie Heron, I am so sorry for whatever tragedies have befallen you to take you down to such a dark path. This inexplicable cave lair right beneath the streets of New York City is the film's framing device. The director, Vince Offer, will basically go between a bunch of different apps on his phone to show us different sketches. Hence the title of the film highlighting this feature. Is this supposed to be funny? That's a sentence I'm going to be saying a lot as it relates to this movie, but still, is this supposed to be funny? This just feels so dated, and I'm sure it felt dated the day this came out in 2013. This is not a case of something having aged poorly, this is a case of something having been poor before it aged. And since this is a sketch comedy movie, we're obviously going to be going back and forth between a bunch of unrelated sketches. The brilliant part about this movie, though, is that many of the sketches were not long enough, so they were just butchered and their pieces were scattered throughout the runtime. And by brilliant, I of course mean terrible. But that just means we get to see Academy Award winner Adrien Brody being fake gay right after Rob Schneider's porno review. Speaking of Adrien Brody and his character of Flirty Harry, we begin the film with, of course, this glorious soundbite.
Go ahead. Make me gay.
There is then a minute and a half of Brody talking to the police chief and making an endless stream of double entendre jokes about penises, but mostly about gay sex in particular. The joke here, and the whole joke of all of his sketches, is that gay equals funny. Unfortunately, the Shamwow guy needs to realize that's only true if you're talking about My Friends Call Me Pat. Or, you know, Bo and Yang. I like Bo and Yang a lot, too. It's very hard for me to take this scene seriously after I've just watched Adrien Brody in The Brutalist for 3.5 hours, being an excellent actor. I'm imagining him putting a lot of thought and craft and care into this, imagining his character's innermost desires, their wants and needs, as he's performing in whatever the fuck this scene is.
But I unloaded into both of those assholes.
All right, stop. I told you.
It felt good.
I read the frickin' report.
He is so into this. There is spittle flying from his mouth. He is treating this comedy sketch where the entire joke is that gays are weird like it's William Shakespeare.
I'm sorry, am I the only one that had an erection for me when he started talking.
We'll be seeing more of him throughout the movie. But up next, we have Blackass, a parody, obviously, of Jackass, and the entire joke there is that they're black, and there are often a lot of cliches to make you laugh. Or not. The or not usually wins out. By the way, I'd be pretty curious to find out which sketch is being represented by the circumcision app. Actually, never mind. I take it back. I do not want to see what the Shamwow guy thinks about circumcision.
The more you do it, the finer it gets. You don't have to switch any blades.
This intro sketch is a parody of the very famous opening of the first Jackass movie where they're all in a giant shopping cart, except they've made the tasteful change to have them be in a dumpster running from the police, and then they're all catapulted into a septic tank. I guess I'll give them some credit. The septic tank crash is probably the only joke in the entire movie that is not rooted in some form of bigotry. Frankly, the film would have been a lot better served if it had relied more on poop jokes than racism. It wouldn't have been a better movie, but it would have made sitting through it for this video a lot better for me. And I know this is so not the point, but the dubbing on this fruit stand operator is so bizarre. His lips aren't even moving, but there's sound coming out of them. That doesn't make any sense. Why bother even adding it at all? It's so distracting, it's clearly not coming from the guy himself, and yes, this is another minor criticism of the movie, which is essentially like me complaining that the Titanic has outdated carpeting while the Titanic is literally vertical. But still, my point remains. They should have updated their upholstery, and while they were at it, they should have added a few more lifeboats. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, hi, I'm happy you're here. And if there's one thing you should take away from our time together, it's a greater awareness and appreciation of the maritime disaster that was the sinking of the Titanic. A helpful piece of advice for those of you with kids, or if you want kids, if you buy them a book called 882.5 Answers to All Your Questions About the Titanic, then one day they too can have a commentary YouTube channel where they're talking about terrible movies and occasionally adding cute little quips about the Titanic. By the way, the upholstery on the Titanic was fine, made that up for a joke, and here's a real fact for you, one of the nicknames of the Titanic was the Ship of Dreams. Let's talk about arguably the worst part of the entire film, Ari Shaffir as the Amazing Racist. I take this one quite personally because I'm both a big fan of The Amazing Race and not a big fan of racism. But more to the point, the framing of this sketch doesn't even make any sense because they call it The Amazing Racist, but at no point do they ever actually parody any elements of the real show, The Amazing Race, which is quite famously A, a race, and 2, a competition. It's like they literally just wanted to use the name and branding to make a pun and use precisely no other elements of the show in their sketch. Wait, it's not like that. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what they did. And it irritates me. It irritates me a lot. Because it doesn't feature any elements from the actual show, all of the Amazing Racist sketches basically boil down to Ari Shaffir saying a bunch of vile things to minorities under the guise of it being a hidden camera prank show. And I use quotes around that because while the movie and Ari Shaffir in press conferences either outright say or heavily imply that it's real, it's pretty obviously fake and scripted. I'm kidding, of course. No, not about it being fake. It's obviously fake. But they didn't do a press tour. Are you kidding me? The only people I could find on record about this movie were a couple answers in Shaffir's Reddit Ask Me Anything. But as far as I can tell, numerous people from these sketches were credited as if they were actors in the end of the movie, and I can't possibly imagine what I'm about to show you is actually real.
That's what I'm talking about, Jose. That's what I'm talking about. You're welcome. Gracias, dude. Okay, but enjoy yourself.
That's not all we get to see in this first sketch, though. We also get to see Shaffir be bigoted to an interracial couple.
You okay, ma'am? You not in any danger? Not enough to steal our money. You gotta steal a white woman, too.
Oh, that's not very fun. Oh, he does it again, doesn't he?
Are you guys together? Ma'am?
Yeah, this is my lady, homie.
Are you okay, ma'am?
Oh, that's really not very fun. Who is meant to laugh at this? The rotting corpse of Robert E. Lee? We then see a brief Blackass sketch where they are jousting with phallic lances. That's all they are. They are lances. YouTube, you're good. You don't gotta worry. And then we get to see the next sketch, Rob Schneider's first, porno review. For those of you who don't know who Rob Schneider is, quick summary, he was on SNL, and then he was in dozens of the worst comedy movies ever, and now he's mostly just racist on Twitter. As the name suggests, Rob is a critic, and he must evaluate adult videos with his co-star and somebody who is pleasuring himself into a popcorn bucket and then uses the quantity to determine his rating of the movie. Yeah, that's a real sentence, and it really does describe Inappropriate Comedy, starring two-time Academy Award winner Adrien Brody. You know, there was this very critical concept in advertising that brands don't want to be buying up ad space next to things that most people will find upsetting or offensive. It's why you'll have a lot of trouble trying to sell ad space on a website with a lot of racists and maniacs on it, like a far-right web forum or Twitter. The fake film they use here for this scene is, in the context of cinema, probably one of the most offensive things I've ever seen.
It's foreplay time now. I give you combination. Hong Kong hustle.
It's not funny at all. It's not even 1% funny. It's just a bunch of lines in broken English that have been dubbed over a couple Asian actors, and it's just cartoonishly racist.
Oh yeah, me Mr. Miyagi, put it in me Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah, tell me I'm good at math.
You so good at math.
If you unironically find this funny, you need to be taken to an animal shelter and be put down like one of the dogs that they can't adopt out anywhere. Yes, it's sad, but needs to be done. There are also several cuts to the person pleasuring himself into the popcorn bucket throughout the duration of the sketch, which, like, what is the joke here? I'm watching an actor who presumably had parents who loved him, although apparently not enough, pretend to touch his pee while watching the most racist adult film known to man. Rob Schneider gets upset because there's no nudity in it at all, to which his co-host chides him for not appreciating the artistic value of such a creative choice. And you know what? I never talk like this, but my worst YouTube video that I have ever made has about 1,000 times more artistic value than whatever the fuck I just watched. Then there's this very brief black ass sketch, which I can just show you.
My birthday's what?
That looked really real, guys. Awesome. Totally cool to put that in a movie. But now it's time for some more Adrien Brody.
Would you like to sample my nuts?
I'll pop a couple in my mouth, sure.
These are extra salty.
Okay, I've looked at these clips a lot to make this video, and I'll just say it. The shame that Adrien Brody should feel for having been in this movie should vastly outweigh any pride or joy he felt from winning 2 Oscars. His acceptance speech broke the record for longest in Academy Award history, but you know what? It should have been even longer, because there should have been an apology for starring in this pathetic excuse for a film. Speaking of things I feel I deserve an apology for having seen, the next amazing racist sketch.
Do what I do. I started Ari's driving school for the round eye impaired.
This segment is really great if you enjoy pathetically lazy racism and sexual harassment. The game of this sketch, game is a term in sketch comedy to refer to the thing that makes an entire sketch work, the joke of the sketch, if you will. The game in this sketch is that Asians have small eyes, and Shaffir sexually harasses an Asian woman. And if this video is really starting to sound like me talking like a disgruntled human resources employee reading down a laundry list of violations, that's because that's how you have to analyze this film. No, Ari, you can't use tape to force an Asian man to keep his eyes open. That's A, horrifically unfunny, and B, I'm gonna need you to clean out your desk. And maybe I'm feeling too much empathy for these actors who are listed in the credit order, or no, I'm sorry, they're real people, but this sketch goes on for hours. That's how it feels. It is a good learning tool, though, for realizing why we as a society really did need the Me Too movement and greater accountability for victims of sexual harassment and assault.
What are you gonna sue me for?
I'm gonna sue you for sexual harassment.
It wasn't harassment if you were asking for it.
That is disgusting and upsetting. There's then another black ass sketch where the joke is that black people are scary and poor, which is a great accompaniment to the subsequent black ass sketch where the joke is that black people are scary and horny.
Sit down.
Yeah. And with the severe level of racism in all of these sketches, I'm starting to think that maybe we, the gays, got off kind of easy. I mean, our only humiliation is really like Adrien Brody. Like, it's pretty much just him wearing ill-fitting pants and saying a lot of hurtful puns. You know, we're not seeing like a drag queen try to turn a kid trans while Neil Patrick Harris applauds from the sidelines. What's this? Oh, I've spoken too soon, haven't I? Up next is Rob Schneider's second sketch, where he is a reviewer of adult film, and this time he is talking about a parody of Swan Lake entitled Sperm Lake, which features a bunch of evil dancing gays kidnapping an all-American hillbilly. They then pour a lot of milk on him. Milk. Did you hear that, YouTube? It was just milk. This whole thing was an advertising campaign done by the state of Wisconsin to promote small business and local dairy farmers, okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. As we're finally starting to see the end of the tunnel, we see Adrien Brody's last scene as Flirty Harry.
Yes, Harry. Once I finish now, everything be okay. You like semi-gloss?
Actually, I don't know about the semi. I like a nice hard finish.
I'm running out of words to express this, but this is not okay, and it's not funny. And it's not. And by the way, those are the fakest looking ice cubes I've ever seen in my life, and I know that's not the point, but I really have to point it out to distract my brain from the bigotry. Imagine telling someone that you did a scene with Adrien Brody in a theatrically released movie, and then you go to show them what the scene is, and it's this.
Yeah, like pow, pow, pow in the sky, bright like why?
Doesn't really go in the sky, but shoots kind of far.
He then shoots a bad guy in the posterior, giving us a fitting end to Flirty Harry. We're not done yet, though, because we've got more of the amazing racist. This time, Shaffir is going into a Jewish market to collect signatures for a petition. What's on the petition? Well, it's an apology petition for killing Jesus. Shaffir, a Jewish comedian, has a lot more leeway with this sketch than all of the other sketches he's done prior to this for obvious reasons.
You have no idea what my people have been through. The Jews? No, the dentists.
Whether or not you think putting a dollar bill on the ground so that they're trapped by a shipping container that says to Adolf from the future, whether or not you think that's too far, I'll leave it up to you to decide. There's then another sketch with Rob Schneider where he's a therapist and he doesn't care about what his client is saying until she starts talking about sex, and then he takes a bunch of her sex pills and then he dies on the floor. That's pretty much it. It reads almost as a criticism of therapy in general as a practice, so I have to hope that my 75-year-old shrink that I was seeing for many years wasn't just viewing me as a, piece of eye candy. Our last amazing racist sketch is probably the worst of them all, as Shaffir poses as a genteel southerner trying to get black people to go on his boat for a one-way trip to Africa.
So if you're from Africa, why are you white?
He does this in several different ways, at one point enlisting his friend to try to bait them with a bucket of fried chicken. Okay.
Follow it. You're gonna make
it. Goddamn, eat it.
You can do it.
I'm sure the creators of this film would disagree with me, but this sketch has made a pretty convincing case that we, in fact, do need reparations, and we can take it directly from what this movie made at the box office. We can take all $228,004 that it made and distribute it evenly to the 48.3 million black people all across America. And when everyone gets their check in the mail for 1/2 of 1 cent, just know that the racism in this sketch was for a good cause. Well, actually, it'll be a tiny bit less than that because, obviously Adrien Brody needs to get a check for himself, right?
Rastafari,
The film's final sketch is a bunch of government agents kidnapping Ari Shaffir and dropping him off in Afghanistan, suggesting that, in the end, the amazing racist got some form of justice, even as he is loudly being more racist as he's been captured. The racism doesn't really ever stop for him.
Oh, please, not Arabs. They smell so bad.
But that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. It would be a little bit like making an entire movie about a certain German leader from the 1940s where he's just allowed to spew his bigotry unchallenged basically for 90 whole minutes to a bunch of minorities, and then in the final scene of the film, he gets a paper cut. That doesn't make up for all of it. Not even close. I'm sure you all know which German leader that I'm talking about. That's right, you know what you did, 1949 Chancellor of West Germany, Konrad Adenauer. What can we say about this movie? Well, in some sense, it represents an early cautionary tale about the dangers of endless scrolling. Let this serve as a warning, kids. If you use TikTok for too long, eventually you'll see racism, queer Adrien Brody, and a magical portal between Lindsay Lohan's legs, which I'm very uncertain if I can show on this platform. On a real note, this is probably the worst film starring an Academy Award winner that I've ever seen, maybe in existence. What the Shamwow guy who wrote and directed this movie fails to realize is that racism is not a joke. You can't be listing a bunch of racial stereotypes like you're an edgy middle schooler and expect that to be funny or engaging or something that people actually actually want to watch. Everyone in this film is terrible, or they were doomed by horrific writing or directing, or any manner of catastrophe. I don't know if I've ever felt as empty as I did after watching a movie as I did when the credits started to roll for Inappropriate Comedy. If you want to see it for yourself, it's available for free, like everywhere, on Tubi, but I would recommend you do literally anything else with your time. If you want to see pure unadulterated racism for 90 minutes, go look at the replies of a Trump tweet for 90 minutes. Somehow, you'll come away from the experience with more faith in both humanity and comedy than you would if you had watched Inappropriate Comedy. By the way, the name of this movie is stupid. I'm surprised I haven't said that yet. And here's some advice specifically to Timothée Chalamet. If you are ever competing with Adrien Brody again for Best Actor, please tell your publicist about this movie. I think the results will go a little different for you this time around. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, please comment. It gets this video out to more people, and I super duper appreciate that. Also, consider subscribing. It's free, and I upload 1 to 2 new videos every single week. And remember, I do read every comment, so comment down below what you think. Did you like it? Can't say that with a straight face. What did you think? Was Adrien Brody excellent? If you didn't like The Brutalist or don't like him as a performer, I'm sure this video made you very, very happy. But as always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and I'll see you for the next one.